If you consume a lot of social media, perhaps you need to shift that energy and shift it towards yourself, towards your creative energy, and perhaps consider creating rather than consuming. What I've realized is the more you consume content, and particularly when you consume it excessively, what you are doing is you are leaking energy. And instead of leaking that energy, which will eventually deplete you and distract you from making your money, from doing what you need to do, from being productive, from essentially growing and building and creating the life that you need to be creating, instead shift that energy back towards yourself, and in terms of creative energy, in terms of you actually creating something rather than consuming. And the moment you turn that energy inwards, what happens is that you reduce the leak and you stop the leak. And then as you are creating for yourself, as you're directing that energy back to yourself, you'll be able to also reduce the amount of energy that you're leaking outwards, and you'll also be able to just concentrate on yourself and perhaps even come up with ways in which you can build yourself. You can come up with creative ways in which you can meet your goals, and you'll find that you'll not be as distracted. You're not going to be as consumed with watching and consuming content. Instead, you are going to be more targeted towards yourself. You're going to have that energy targeted towards yourself. That we need to consider right now in this day and age, where a lot of us, myself included, have a degree or are on the spectrum of social media addiction. And I know many people will not want to admit that they are actually addicted to social media, myself included. Nobody wants to ever imagine themselves as an addict of anything, because it denotes that there's a sense of loss of control. But even as you look at how addicts talk about, the first thing is to actually admit. And perhaps it's time that we admit, I admit, you admit that our social media habits are not the healthiest, are not the best. They're quite distracting and destructive. And one of the ways we can actually break that is by directing that energy back towards ourselves. And one of the easiest ways we can do that is actually creating content. And not just any type of content, whatever your goal is in life. Like for me currently, my goal is to get hotter, richer, and smarter. And so basically what I'm doing is that I am documenting the process of me doing that. And as I'm creating content rather than consuming content, I'm also just concentrating on literally getting what I need to get done. So yeah, perhaps you need to consider doing that.